Good morning. I'm Karen Carter Richards, Chairman of the Board for the National Newspaper Publishers Association. We welcome you to our second day of our virtual NNPA 2021 Midwinter Training Conference. Yesterday was informative and very useful for our NNPA member publishers and others who are interested in the advancement and sustainability of the Black press of America. Today's training workshops and special messages will be equally important. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. We welcome you once again to our second day of our Midwinter Training Conference. Our virtual conference has many different components, and we appreciate you joining in with us. We have a great workshops for today, and then tonight we're going to give our Lifetime Achievement Award to the distinguished publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, John Warren, the Reverend Dr. John Warren, publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. That'll take place at 7 o'clock tonight. But this morning, we have a great program for you, so please stay tuned. Thank you for joining us today.
How can we find the best climate solutions? We look for a light, one bright enough to inspire us all to work together. Right now, America's natural gas and oil companies continue to lower emissions worldwide, all while fulfilling essential energy needs. Together, we can keep the U.S. the world leader in reducing emissions. See how American innovation lights the way at energyforprogress.org.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is David Grant and I'm a program manager for the Facebook Journalism Project Accelerator Program. And we're so happy to have you here with an awesome panel of Accelerator participants, leaders, talking about what's been going on with our Sustainability Accelerator. We're grateful for NNPA for the opportunity to talk to you all about this today and share a little bit of what's been working with publishers in our program, because we think it'll be an inspiration to you and hopefully some opportunity for you as well. The Accelerator Program is going on its third year. It's Facebook's premier business sustainability grant and coaching program. We've run it in many countries all over the world. And as we reach this moment, I know for you all at NNPA, thinking about rebuilding, thinking about transformation, we hope that this program meets that moment. This group of publishers coming together to share lessons learned, to share their business successes, their business challenges, and grow together as a group. And we're really excited to share a little bit of that with you today. Practically how the program works is we bring a group of publishers together, 10 to 15 publishers, for an intensive training period of about 3 months, followed by a 6-month grant period where they get support to implement what they've learned over the 3-month period. You'll hear a lot about that today, so I won't belabor the point. What's going on at this moment is we've got the first ever Sustainability Accelerator for publishers of color running, which is 20 publishers that were selected from over 300 applicants back in about the middle of last year. That is still ongoing today. We'll finish up in the first quarter of 2021. 50% of the publishers in this program are Black owned and Black led. And as we go forward, we just want to continue to meet the moment that our country and our industry require. And I hear a lot from my friend Sarah Lomax-Reese here in a moment. And so I'll quote one of our other coaches who said at the beginning of this that the moment is really about, as Black people in this country are boldly leading the fight for justice again, this is a program that's there to help media organizations to speak to Black Americans and all Americans as we think about all the things that are going on in our country today. So we're grateful for all of you and grateful to have this opportunity together. Just know that coming up next in April of this year, there will be an opportunity for 30 more publishers to join Accelerator programs. We hope that you'll apply to be included in those programs. And the best way to get more information about that is through the Facebook Journalism Project newsletter, which you can subscribe to at facebookjournalismproject.com. So Without further ado, let me turn it over to the folks that are going to be sharing some of their experiences with you today, led by Sarah Lomax-Reese, who's the CEO of Word Radio in Philadelphia and the founder of URL, a new business collaborative for publishers of color, which is super exciting. Candace Mays, who is a project manager out in Riverside with Black Voice News, and James Washington, who's the president and GM of Atlanta Voice down in Atlanta. So my friends, please take it away.
Thanks so much, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Lomax-Reese, and so happy to be here. I'm also the program lead for this inaugural BIPOC Sustainability Accelerator Program, and it has been a real honor to work with organizations like Atlanta Voice and Black Voice News and Black Voices News, and to just learn about the great work that's happening all over the country within Black and Brown owned and led media organizations doing incredible work. And so, you know, this conversation is really just us talking about what we're all learning in this first go round in this accelerator. I was in another Facebook accelerator, the membership accelerator, last year. I guess it was last spring, and so it's really a deep dive and a really interesting format. So let me ask you, Candace and James. You know, you guys both are working in Black media, and I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that your organizations are both experiencing that you're trying to overcome? And I'll start with you, Candace.
One of the biggest challenges that we're experiencing right now, especially in 2021, having just endured 2020, is capacity building and sustainability within the organization. With COVID-19 and how hard it hit Black communities, being compounded by Black Lives Matter and an increase in police violence, and on top of combating a hostile presidency, it was really important for us to make sure that our reporting was accurate and timely and modernized, and that requires resources. And those resources require time that we often felt like we didn't have because we were often focusing on what matters most to our readers, and that is getting the story out. And so it really was a matter of having to kind of refocus and reorganize where we put our energy so that we can continue to report on the issues that matter most to our readers for the next 50 years.
And how about you, James? What is Atlanta Voice wrestling with?
We're wrestling with everything that everybody's wrestling with, but more importantly, I want to thank Facebook for having me. The guys who are looking at this are from NNPA, so they all know me, and so let's be real direct. This is the Midwinter Workshop. The Midwinter Workshop is for training, sales, and marketing. And one of the things that the Sustainability Accelerator Program has done for the Atlanta Voice is that we are able to work on our business while we are in our business. The sustainability piece, the issue of transitioning from purely being a print product to a digital product, to a digital first product, and the whole issue of monetization, if you will. So technically speaking, it's really going to school on your business and going to school on a changing media marketplace, a dynamic changing media marketplace. So we've been just trying to keep up, so to speak, looking at the brand as opposed to just the newspaper. So everybody who's looking at this, and every Black media owner in the world that comes from a legacy print publication, has had that challenge to make the mental transition from thinking like a print product, thinking like a historic newspaper, and realizing that we have a level that no one can compete with us, and that is the brand of Black Voices. And if I'm right, it's in Riverside, the brand in Atlanta, the brand in Philadelphia, the brand, if you will, no one can compete with. Now, how do you monetize that? How do you expand that brand? How do you expand the audience? Because right now it's not solely about subscribers, it's about reach and eyeballs. And that's what we're working on.
Excellent, excellent. So James, I know you've been in a number of different kinds of programs. Candace, I don't know if Black Voice News has been in other kinds of kind of boot camp journalism programs, but I'm curious, what is unique about this sustainability program from your standpoint that's, you know, that's helping you navigate the challenges that you're facing with your organization? I'll start with you, Candace.
I'm very new to media. I have a background in education and I'm also a fiction writer. I've only been working in media for about a year and a half. So for me, the Accelerator program and the boot camp format is really my like intro to thinking about the business side of news and how a newsroom operates and how you run and manage a newsroom, to be completely honest with you. For me, what's most helpful is how comprehensive it is. So the fact that with our weekly meetings, that, you know, it's a focused topic, we're walked through that topic, and then we're all provided a coach that gives us an opportunity to not only ask questions individually about that topic, but then also apply whatever we've learned to what we're currently looking at now. So for example, the audience funnel. You know, it's great to sit in on a webinar about the audience funnel, but it's one thing to like receive information and understand and agree with it, and a completely different ballgame to apply it to your own business, right? And oftentimes that's really painful too, because like as James said, you're having to shift your mindset. Sometimes you're shattering your mindset. And so for me, it's the comprehensiveness of the topics that we're learning about, how those topics are sequenced to build us towards being agile newsrooms that we keep talking about in those weekly boot camps, and having the accessibility of not just one coach, but any coach in the Accelerator program to help you with what you specifically need for your product, your audience, and your goals. Because while all of our goals are to make money, we still have different ways and different things that we want to put out into the world for our product and for our audiences.
Nice, nice. It's interesting that you say that, Candace, because one of the things that we, you know, the accelerators have been primarily focused on like a deep dive in one particular area, and this is the first time with this sustainability accelerator that it's more of a broader array of topics around how do you create sustainable revenue streams and sustainability overall. So I appreciate the fact that you like the fact that it is kind of a broad approach, but it's all around kind of building sustainability. And so, James, why don't you tell us what's your experience in terms of how this is different, how the experience has been for you with this accelerator?
Well, I like the term that you used and Candace used earlier, this boot camp. Let's make no mistake about it. It is professional boot camp. When I say professional, I mean, you know, it's kind of like going back to school on the industry that you're working, that you can get lost in working every day. So one of the great things, and in full transparency, you are our coach.
I know.
Coach of the Atlanta Boys. So, you know what, I got to sound like I've learned something from you here. So let me say it. And Candace has a coach too. We all do. So it's not like you are unique in that regard, but you are unique to us. And one of the things that's there is like, it's a virtual classroom, which means it's a virtual group of your peers. So it's not just the expertise of the coaches, it's the reality of sitting down and having, and realizing, one, you're not alone. Two, realizing that we have an enormous amount of talent located in different parts of the country, working on different projects and doing really, really great things. It's like, and the people who are watching this would understand. It's like having a boot camp publishers exchange. And the publishers exchange used to be, and it still is, when we used to get together, there was a time that we would allocate for the meeting, after the meeting, and the meeting before the meeting, where you would sit down, you would exchange ideas, etc. The good news about this one is that when you exchange those ideas, now you got to go work on them and bring them back. It's not, this is not multiple choice. Let's understand that. You can't go, I got a 50% chance on a true or false deal. No, this is really one where the goal is to go and look at those tests, those case studies, if you will, of making sure that you would understand something like what Candace said earlier, the audience funnel. The audience funnel, for those who may not know, is simply looking at your audience, trying to realize who comes to get you normally every day, and going down into the funnel so that everybody understands it. It sounds very complicated, but it's not. At the base of at the top of the funnel, there are people who just kind of see you on a billboard riding down the highway. At the bottom of the funnel, it's you're on the highway and you know that's where you're going. So you're going to stop at exit 22 because that's where the good food is and you can relax. And I know I may be giving some esoteric examples, but what I'm trying to say is that this all happens while you're at work. So the discipline to stop what you're doing, and you do such a wonderful job, Sarah, of saying, hold it, stop, let's breathe into the moment. Let's let go of what we're doing so we can concentrate on working on your business. And here's today's subject. Here's who's going to share with you. And we have literally, I'm in a library at the office, and we have a library of human capital that we can call. We've got resources, etc. And remember, at the end of the day, it is sustainability. So you're learning this so that you can shift, pivot, if you will, transform, so that the brand, because I keep coming back to that, so that your brand, which has always had value, now gets distributed to those audience segments, if you will, that can return hopefully something to your bottom line.
Yeah, and I'm curious because this is an intensive, but it's really all about results. It's all about, we all talk about it in the Accelerator, testing and learning, and actually trying to drive early wins and all of that stuff. So Candace, what's one thing, if there is one thing that you've learned that's really kind of had an impact on your business so far? Because we still have a few more weeks to go in this project.
I would say, and this isn't as concrete, but I think it's really important, especially as a media company in quickly changing times. We're also making the transition to being primarily digital and focusing on other forms of revenue, is not being afraid to fail. Is a big thing. There's a lot of changes we've wanted to make, a lot of ideas we've wanted to put into action. For us, our first sprint was an end of year giving campaign, which we've never done before. We've never asked our audiences or our partners or anyone for any sort of donation outside of sponsorships and advertising. And it was something we had been talking about ever since I'd been hired on board, but never developed a plan for. And I think part of it was the fear of asking, the fear of managing it, just the fear in general of doing this new thing. And so we knew we had to get started, but it was very difficult to get started. And so with the Accelerator Group and having access to all this human capital that James had referenced, one, you have like cheerleaders that are pushing you to do it. Your coach is your cheerleader, and also at the same time exactly what they are, your coach. And so there's taking away the fear of getting started. And then also, as you're going through the process and you're realizing things aren't working, but that doesn't mean your whole plan isn't working. That's part of the pivoting and moving around that James was also talking about, not being afraid of failing in that process and knowing that there's a lesson in that failure. And I think it was the first session we had, and I'm going to say the phrase wrong, but we're talking about failing fast and failing cheaply, so that when it doesn't work out, it's not going to like decimate your entire business. And that was such a more approachable way to look at experimenting. So with our donor campaign, it doesn't hurt to ask. And we may lose we lose some hours in the emails we drafted and the newsletters we sent out, but we don't lose anything else in the process of having asked. And so at the end of it, even if you only raise $200, that's $200 more than you had before. And fortunately, since we stuck through it and followed the Accelerator's advice, we raised far more than that.
That's
fantastic. So taking away the fear of failure.
Yeah, great. And James, how about you? What's like one thing that you've learned and your organization has learned over the course of the first half of this particular accelerator?
Well, I think we have learned that we are not as inept as we may have thought we were in this world.
You guys are not inept at all. Let me say that.
In this world of digital transformation, changing media landscape. I mean, it's almost like people who don't know want to make it difficult. It's only difficult if you don't know what's wrong with you and you don't go to the doctor, you might die. If you don't know what's wrong with you and you go to the right sources, the right places to say, oh, here's what's wrong with you and here's what you have to take to make it better. That's the best example I can give of what we've learned. our team came, and you guys know our team. You know Janice Ware. She's the publisher. You guys know me. I used to own the paper in Dallas, Texas. You know what? Second generation families got, well, exactly, third generation families got it now. And so basically what we're talking about is, I've always been the guy that's doing infrastructure. If you put the right infrastructure in, you'll get to where you want to go. But in the meantime, you've got all the ingredients. I guarantee you, just about everybody who will watch this has all of the ingredients in order to be successful in this area. Now, what this program does is it tells you, cup of sugar, half a cup of this, leave it in for 30 minutes, take it out, turn it over, etc. And that's the piece that's different, because if you haven't done it, you might be a little afraid of it. Now, what happens is, along the way, you might taste it a little bit. You kind of go, oh, that's not bad. All right. For us, I think, and you were the taskmaster, Miss Lomax Reese. Everybody had to do a short-term sprint, and that was, all right, we've talked about it. Let's deal with our ideas. Let's put a project together, and we're going to put this project together in, was it 3 weeks? And I went, that's impossible. We can't do. Now I'm the old guy. I'm going, we can't do that. We can't do that. And everybody said, well, why not? Let's jump in. Let's not, you know what? No fear of failure. Fear of failure must mean you have a fear of success. And we wound up being extremely successful in an attempt to broaden our brand by utilizing online newsletters. And it was really successful. And we would not have been pushed to do it without this program.
Great, great, great. So I have just a couple more questions. Is there anything that you think the NNPA audience should know about the accelerator that you've learned that would help them prepare if they were interested in pursuing an accelerator program like this? Candace?
Who are you asking? Can't.
I think in preparation for applying to the accelerator program, or once you've been accepted going into it, really try to take a really good look at what's working for you and what isn't, and what you would like to do, and being honest with yourself and with your team, and also with the accelerator program about that. Because one of the things that I was really impressed with was when we had our first coaching session, you know, I from my understanding, the coaches are, you know, strategically matched with their organizations depending on what they say they want to work on the most. And I was really, my coach was Sierra from Scalawag Magazine, and I was really impressed with the fact that, like, coming in, she knew our publication and our organization so well. And that made me really confident and comfortable with her. So I would say, like, having like radical honesty and really no ego about your publication. You know, James had mentioned his is a legacy publication. Black Voice News is almost 50 years old. And so you come with a lot of accomplishment and a lot of great things you've done. But in order to move forward, you're to an extent kind of becoming an infant again, right? Because like I said, some of these things are brand new. Some of them are painful. Some of these are the complete opposite of how you've been thinking of them previously. And so really having a willingness to try things and being transparent about where you are now, what's not working, and where you want to go, and having in that the willingness to do what it takes to get to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And James?
Anybody who knows me knows I tell stories. So just bear with us, guys. All right. I mean, this is like being the freshman in college, walking past the bulletin board and seeing a scholarship application tacked on the board. And you look at it and you kind of go, I'll never, you know, I'm not good enough, or I don't know what I'm doing, etc. I'm simply saying the biggest thing to do is don't think that you are not eligible, because you can look at Facebook as if it's this huge, and it is this huge thing. But what you're hearing right now is a concentration on the importance of local journalism. You can hear what we're saying and go, oh, gee, I might never make that. The truth is, don't be afraid to apply. Don't be concerned about applying, because you may not think you're ready yet. You know, this is the kind of thing that is, if anybody has grew up with a housekeeper and your mother was like, why am I cleaning the house? We got a housekeeper. Now, I didn't have a housekeeper. I mean, but I'm saying, I know people who say, well, you got to clean the house because the housekeeper's coming. And I'm kind of going, what? That makes no sense to me, because that's a thought process that might keep you from applying, because you may not think you're ready. And what I'm saying is, if the Atlanta Voice is here, if Black Voice News is here, I think there are several others that if I call the names, you guys would know. You would know. Excuse me. The Charlotte Post is here. And I could call a couple of others that you would say, "Oh, I didn't know that," because they simply had the courage to apply. And what's the worst that can happen? You get a hey, not this year, next year. But that's the difference, and that is trying. This is not an acquired taste. This is our business. This is the changing media industry that I talk about. And it's gone a step further because we're having this virtual meeting right now. And when I say, okay, well, wait a minute, people are making money on this stuff. I'm talking about virtual meetings, virtual events. That's also part of the sustainability program. So this is what you need. You need to get your mind, you need to realize that you can get stale just working every day. You can just get into a rut and a habit. This gets you out of that. And thankfully it does.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I really think is unique and transformative about all of these accelerator programs, and I'm appreciative that this one is specifically for Black and Brown owned, led media organizations. That is unique. That is this is the first time we've done an accelerator like this. I think that Facebook has done an accelerator like this, and I think that the components of it are the same across all of the accelerators. There's the boot camp, this like kind of 12-week intensive. There's the coaching, which each of the teams get an individual coach, and then there's the grant, and they get there's money that goes along with the training, so that you get this training and then you have money to actually implement it. And so my last question is, what do you hope to accomplish from being in this accelerator? When you put all of those three things together, how is that going to provide some type of lasting change in your organization that you can imagine? And I'll start with you, Candace.
Our hopes are to have our revenue diversified, and most specifically with what we've been working on in this accelerator program for this session are to have two new streams of revenue. The first one being I mentioned that we had started an end of year giving campaign. So we're working on our development, right? And our ability to garner donations annually. And in addition, as we grow with that skill set and as we increase our audience engagement, to eventually transition to having a membership program. Right, that's the long shot goal that we're hoping, not the long shot, but the long-term goal rather. So that's the first way that we want to diversify our revenue. Secondly, because of another Facebook grant we received from the Facebook Journalism Project for COVID-19 reported, we had launched over the summer a new newsletter called the Cali Love newsletter that is marketed towards a new audience that Black Voice News doesn't currently have right now. And so with the second half of the accelerator program and going into the grant cycle for the program, we are hoping to not only solidify our concept for the Cali Love newsletter to develop an audience, but eventually transition into monetizing that newsletter as well. So by the end of this entire cycle of weekly boot camps, coaching sessions, grant cycle, we'll have two new forms of revenue that will be ongoing and sustainable, and to a degree, hopefully self-sustaining.
How about you, James? What do you want to see out of the program long term?
We are already seeing it. I mean, in the middle of the program, and that is when you start these kind of things, you go in with one mindset, and that mindset could be that you are a newspaper. I mean, that's a mindset that you could go into. What this program has done for us and is continuing to do for us is to realize that we have changed our mission. Our mission is, and our mission statement is, we are a content production, a multimedia content production and distribution company. Now, there's a lot that goes on to that because Candace just talked about a newsletter. Do we produce newsletters? Right. We're a content production company. Do we produce video? Yes, we have. We are, you can look it up now and look at AtlantaVoiceStudios.com. Thanks to our friends at Facebook, we're producing a 6-part docuseries on the homeless here in Atlanta. Now, everything that I'm talking about, you guys know me, I'm trying to sell it. And the issue is wherever people are consuming information and media, this has shown us we need to be there. So if they're looking at, if they're dealing with it on their phone, you're gonna find the Atlanta Voice on the phone. If they're looking at it on the web, you're gonna find us on the web. If you get your information from Instagram, Facebook, just name them, YouTube or what have you, you will find our brand. What we're learning here and what we have learned here is that the sustainability piece has taken the mystery out of how do you monetize it, because everybody's trying to figure that out. Everybody's trying to figure it out. So it's kind of nice to be in a group of a number of your peers who are all trying to figure it out, because the idea that comes up there is probably a pretty good idea. And now we have taskmaster coaches who make sure that if you think that's a good idea, don't raise your hand, because next thing you know, you're gonna have to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that is one of the big pieces of the program is accountability. And I think that's the beauty of the coaching aspect of it is, you're coming face to face with someone every week during that time. And there's a question of like, how's this going and what are you doing? So final question, is there anything that you want to share that hasn't been said as of yet about your experience in the accelerator? Candace?
I mentioned earlier that I'm very, very new to media, and I had said to my boss, Dr. Paulette Brown Behinds, who's been in this business her entire life, that I feel like I'm starting a race like halfway through, and everybody's already really in shape and has their pace, and I'm like catching up. And she said, no, because you're new, you're actually on a bike. Like you're getting fast tracked because we're having to learn all the things. We're having to break some of those habits, and you're coming in learning those new things already. And so for me, the Accelerator program is that fast track for me. It really is teaching me all the modernized ways of how we're doing media and how we're viewing newspapers and how, we're moving from viewing it as just a newspaper or a digital publication to a product. And so I think it's an education. The Accelerator program is an education.
Mm. How about you, James? I know you have something else to say.
Well, you're funny. I'm kidding. For us and for me, and I think I told you, if it was not for the Accelerator program, we wouldn't be meeting as a team and as a company, as an organization on a regular basis to talk about these things, because during the day, everybody's on a silo. Everybody's working in their particular area on their particular thing, and there's genius around the table. This forces the issue for folks to come together, meet on, and have a very, very, very tight and substantial, comprehensive agenda, and actually listen to your quote teammates. And I think that is great, because we haven't. I mean, we're everybody's working remotely, but we're still forced, and I don't mean that in a negative way. We're still forced to come together on a regular basis. And the subject of that is sustainability. Let's make sure we're going to be here next year. Let's make sure we're going to be here years after that. And we're going to be there because we're going to be at the cutting edge as opposed to chasing the leaders. We're going to become leaders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the goal. That is definitely the goal. And so I want to thank both of you, Candace Mays and James Washington, representatives of our inaugural BIPOC Sustainability Accelerator, supported by Facebook. And if people from NNPA want to know more about the Facebook Accelerator programs, you can go to facebookjournalismproject.com, and it's all spelled out, facebookjournalismproject.com. You can sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get more information about upcoming accelerators that are available. So thanks to everyone for listening.
My pleasure. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Pfizer is proud to support the NNPA and patients living with rare diseases, such as transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a life-threatening underdiagnosed disease associated with heart failure. In the U.S., the most common mutation, V122I, Associated with the hereditary form of ATTR-CM is found almost exclusively in African Americans. Roughly 3% of African Americans carry this mutation. We are dedicated to raising awareness for rare diseases like ATTR-CM and making an impact on the lives of patients and caregivers. Visit yourheartsmessage.com to learn more.
We're very grateful for the ongoing partnership between the NMPA and Pfizer Rare Disease. We have a special presentation made by not only a very famous athlete, a sports manager, Don Chaney from the National Basketball Association, the NBA, name known not only in Houston, but in the Northeast. Turns out Don Chaney has this rare disease that we're going to talk about, ATTR-CM. That's a technical name, and he will go into details. But we're very honored to have Don Chaney with us today. Let's listen to him very carefully.
My name is Don Chaney. I'm a former professional basketball player and coach, a husband, father, and grandfather. In 2019, I was diagnosed with a heart condition called transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM for short, which is a little-known life-threatening condition that can lead to heart failure. A few years ago, I started experiencing frequent heart-related symptoms like fatigue, palpitations, and shortness of breath. My mom and grandmother both passed away from heart disease, and I was worried that I may be facing the same issues as them. I underwent several tests and procedures to figure out what was going on, which is how I was diagnosed with heart failure. For about 10 years, I also suffered from carpal tunnel syndrome, numbness, tingling, and pain in my fingers, knee pain, and swelling in my knees and feet, but assumed these were caused by my years of playing basketball. After speaking to my cardiologist, I learned that some symptoms of ATTR-CM can mimic more common symptoms of heart failure, while other symptoms may not typically be associated with the heart condition. In my case, and for many others, this can lead to a delayed or incorrect diagnosis. Hereditary ATTR-CM, which is what I was diagnosed with, is passed down from a relative and due to a genetic mutation. After my diagnosis, I learned that the most common mutation associated with hereditary ATTR-CM in the U.S., V122I, is found almost exclusively in African Americans. I didn't know that my genetics were the cause of my ATTR-CM. If I had known, I may have been able to get the right diagnosis and started managing my condition sooner. It's important for individuals with a family history of ATTR-CM who could be at risk of having or developing the disease to ask their cardiologists about genetic testing. I spoke with my 3 adult children, sisters, and brothers about getting tested to find out if they might also have the mutation I have that causes hereditary ATTR-CM. Today, I work closely with my cardiologist to manage my hereditary ATTR-CM. If you're African American, have a family history of heart failure, and are experiencing any unresolved symptoms of ATTR-CM, have a heart-to-heart with your doctor or an experienced cardiologist to find out if it may be hereditary ATTR-CM